In the affluent enclave of Chevy Chase, Maryland, a heinous murder left the community in shock and law enforcement perplexed for over 20 years. On a fateful morning in May 2001, the lifeless body of Leslie Prieur, a 50-year-old mother and esteemed advertising executive, was discovered brutally beaten within the confines of her home, the scene drenched in blood and shrouded in mystery. The investigation languished in obscurity, devoid of leads or suspects, until the revolutionary application of genetic genealogy led to a startling arrest decades later. Those who cherished Leslie Prieur would be astounded to learn that the individual responsible for her tragic demise had been lurking in plain sight all along. Leslie Jennings Prieur was celebrated as a nurturing mother, devoted wife, and accomplished professional, her life seemingly idyllic. She shared a loving bond with her husband, Sandy Prieur, and their adoring daughter, Lauren. Employed at Specialties Incorporated, an advertising production firm in Northwest D.C., Leslie and Sandy cultivated a life rich in shared experiences, from sun-soaked vacations to cherished family dinners around their kitchen island. Yet, unbeknownst to the Prieur family, they welcomed into their lives a person who would irrevocably alter their existence. On May 2, 2001, Leslie Prieur's ordinary day took a devastating turn. Her absence from work raised alarms among her colleagues and husband alike. The Montgomery County Police Department was summoned to the Prieur residence on Drummond Avenue. Upon arrival, officers were met with a chilling tableau, blood staining the foyer and no sign of Leslie. As they ventured further into the home, they stumbled upon the horrifying sight of Leslie Prieur's lifeless form in the shower of the main bedroom. She had suffered a brutal assault, enduring multiple blunt force injuries and strangulation. Evidence of her desperate fight for survival was found beneath her nails, intertwined with the blood of her assailant. In addition to signs of manual strangulation, investigators discovered V-shaped lacerations on her head that corresponded with the sharp edges of the foyer molding, suggesting that her head had been struck multiple times. It was believed that the assailant transported her from the foyer, attempting to cleanse the area of blood and reduce the visible aftermath. The scene exhibited signs of a hurried cleanup, with luminescence tests uncovering blood traces in the foyer, on a trash receptacle, on the kitchen and downstairs bathroom sinks, as well as on door frames and the back entrance. The initial inquiry into Leslie's tragic demise was comprehensive, yet ultimately unsatisfactory. Preliminary DNA testing indicated that the genetic material found at the scene belonged to an unidentified male, which did not match anyone within Leslie's immediate circle, including her spouse, Sandy. Leslie's daughter, Lauren, provided law enforcement with a list of close family friends. Notably, the eventual perpetrator was included on that list, although investigators did not initially view him as a primary suspect. As weeks turned into months, the case began to stagnate. The police persisted in their efforts, re-interviewing potential witnesses and reassessing evidence, but progress remained elusive. Neighbors reported no unusual activity on that tragic day, and the peaceful low-crime neighborhood yielded few leads. The absence of forced entry indicated that the individual responsible for the crime was likely someone known to Leslie, yet no one could identify that person. Leslie's family faced the anguish of uncertainty. Sandy, her husband, was briefly regarded as a suspect, but was quickly exonerated. Lauren, steadfast in her belief in her father's innocence, continued to advocate for justice for her mother, consistently urging detectives to keep the investigation active. As years went by, optimism began to fade. The inquiry into Leslie's case evolved into one of Montgomery County's most perplexing cold cases. Detectives, both experienced and new, took turns examining the old evidence, hoping for a breakthrough that remained elusive. A flicker of hope emerged in September 2022 as investigators made the pivotal choice to send the blood evidence from the crime scene to a specialized laboratory. This strategic decision would ultimately pave the way for a long-awaited breakthrough, unlocking the case and ensuring that Leslie's assailant would face justice. The laboratory succeeded in crafting a more comprehensive DNA profile of the suspect, which was subsequently forwarded to Family Tree DNA, a prominent genealogy service. The findings revealed a connection to the Gligor surname, prompting detectives to revisit an old lead regarding a man associated with the Prier family, Eugene Gligor. Leslie's daughter, Lauren Prier, first encountered Eugene when she was just 16, as they became classmates at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School, quickly forming an inseparable bond. Eugene, with his rich brown hair and charming smile, was a beloved figure among his peers, aspiring to become a computer engineer while actively engaging in social events. However, his family life was fraught with turmoil. He grappled with the fallout of his parents' divorce and had relatives known for their fiery tempers. Despite these personal challenges, Eugene projected an image of normalcy, never exhibiting any violent behavior in the presence of Lauren or her family. Their families lived in close proximity, allowing Eugene to frequently visit the Prier household, where Leslie and Sandy embraced him as if he were their own son. He accompanied them on family vacations to the Outer Banks and Delaware beaches, where they created cherished memories over board games. While Leslie always spoke highly of Eugene, Sandy harbored a sense of unease, unable to pinpoint the source of his discomfort. In June 2024, investigators collected Eugene's DNA from a discarded water bottle he had used at Dulles International Airport. The results confirmed a match with the DNA found at the crime scene, leading to his arrest on June 18, 2024, marking a significant advancement in the pursuit of justice for this long-cold case. At 44 years of age, Eugene Gligor is currently facing first-degree murder charges and has been extradited from Washington, D.C. to Maryland. His arrest in connection with the death of Leslie Prier has elicited a complex mix of shock and relief, particularly for her daughter, Lauren. The unsettling discovery that her former boyfriend is the primary suspect has compounded the emotional turmoil of an already tragic situation. Lauren had a 5-year relationship with Gligor, but had not been in contact with him for several years prior to her mother's passing. Shortly after the funeral, she recounted an encounter with him at a bar in Bethesda, where she informed him of her mother's death. His response, "I am so sorry," struck her as particularly chilling. "I spoke with him. He didn't seem off. It's hard to comprehend how someone can look you in the eye, knowing they committed such a crime, and act as if nothing is amiss," she expressed. While this development marks a significant step in the investigation, authorities have yet to disclose a clear motive behind the violent act. Gligor remains in custody without bail, as prosecutors have labeled him a flight risk due to his frequent international travels. As the community and the Prier family await the trial, they continue to seek clarity and justice for Leslie. After 2 decades of relentless pursuit for the truth, a remarkable development has finally emerged in the tragic case of Elena Teresa Adele Laswell. At just 15 years old, Elena's life was abruptly extinguished, casting a long shadow over her family and community, who have been grappling with the aftermath since her untimely demise on July 10, 2004. As the 20th anniversary of her passing approaches, an arrest has rekindled hope in a case that had long been shrouded in silence. Born on January 17, 1989, in the vibrant city of Phoenix, Arizona, Elena was cherished by her family, her devoted parents, Steve and Molly, along with her 4 brothers and sister. A spirited participant in team sports, a budding artist and a lover of animals, she attended several esteemed local institutions, including St. Gregory's Catholic School, Serene Elementary School, and Phoenix Preparatory Academy, from which she graduated in May 2004. With dreams of starting North High School in the fall of 2004, her aspirations were tragically cut short by a senseless act of violence. On that fateful evening of July 10, 2004, at approximately 8 p.m., police responded to a harrowing 911 call from a residence on North 21st Drive in Phoenix. Upon their arrival, officers were led to a room where they discovered the gravely injured Elena, clinging to life. Despite immediate medical intervention, she was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation was subsequently assigned to homicide detectives, who, despite their tireless efforts, were unable to identify any suspects, leading the case to grow cold over the years. Elena's family and the Phoenix Police Department endured the heart-wrenching frustration of an unresolved crime, with little hope for closure. However, a significant breakthrough occurred years later. In 2012, advancements in DNA technology enabled detectives to revisit the evidence collected from the crime scene. Through the application of advanced DNA collection and analytical methodologies, investigators successfully established a genetic profile that corresponded with that of Sergio Francisco Reyes. By March 2013, the DNA evidence had definitively pointed to Reyes as a principal suspect. At the time of the crime in 2004, Reyes was merely 17 years old, and his association with the tragic event remained unknown to the investigators initially. In 2014, a grand jury in Maricopa County indicted Reyes. However, due to his residence in Mexico, extradition measures were necessary to facilitate his return to the United States. This intricate process required collaboration between U.S. Marshals and Mexican law enforcement. On July 10, 2024, coinciding with the 20th anniversary of Elena's untimely death, Reyes was apprehended and extradited to Phoenix. He now faces a series of serious charges, including first-degree assault, kidnapping, and burglary, with his bail set at an imposing $1.5 million. The Phoenix Police Department has yet to reveal any prior connections Reyes may have had with Elena. The family of Elena, encompassing her parents and siblings, has conveyed a blend of relief and lingering grief. Her aunt, Katie Laswell, expressed, "The knowledge that someone is being held accountable is truly uplifting. It has been an arduous journey, and I am immensely grateful to the Phoenix Police Department for their unwavering dedication. I always believed they were on the right path. I just didn't know when it would culminate." Since her daughter's tragic demise, Elena's mother has passed away, yet Katie reflects that her sister's desire was not for vengeance. She ponders the life Elena might have led, asking, what would she be doing now? Would she be married? All those ordinary moments that we will never witness. She describes Reyes as a monster, stating, "It is challenging to recognize a monster in reality, as they do not conform to the image we were taught to fear." Steve Laswell, Elena's father, expressed his sentiments, stating, "To be candid, after 2 decades, I had not anticipated any further developments in the case. Our foremost hope was that his arrest would prevent him from inflicting harm again." He continued, "Elena is deeply missed by all of us, and we often reflect on the remarkable person she could have become. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Phoenix Police Department and all those who have persevered alongside us throughout this journey, ultimately achieving success." While the family grapples with their sorrow, they find solace in the closure that awaits them as the legal proceedings commence. A young woman's life took an awful turn in 1996 when her automobile broke down on a peaceful Midland County road. She was kidnapped and beaten in a remote area, and what had initially appeared like a lucky break, a stranger giving assistance, quickly turned into a nightmare. The attacker vanished into thin air, and the crime went undiscovered for decades. But the case was completely disproved some 30 years later by developments in DNA technology. Nikki Triple, then 18, lived in the peaceful, rural area of Midland County, Michigan, and went about her everyday existence in the days preceding the crime, much like any other young person. She was getting ready for another evening at home following a demanding day. It was the usual January weather, chilly and possibly dangerous for travel. She probably thought the travel home would go smoothly when she left early on the evening of January 7th, 1996. But as she drove along the desolate roads, her car broke down mechanically, leaving her stranded in a remote place with few people around. The man who was about to attack her pulled by at that same moment. He was unfamiliar, having ostensibly shown up as a helpless Good Samaritan. It felt fortunate that in her condition of vulnerability, he came across as a caring man who was willing to assist. Taking his seeming goodwill at face value, she accepted his offer. She was offered a lift home after the car was forced off the road, and she realized there was a serious risk of becoming stranded behind her. The woman gladly accepted what seemed to be a simple gesture of goodwill when the man made the offer. This seemingly kind deed will quickly become a terrifying nightmare. She had no idea. He drove her to a secluded field in a far-off area of the county rather than taking her home. That was where he horribly betrayed her trust by attacking her violently. He told her to get dressed after the attack and drove her back in the direction of the road. The man made a last-ditch effort to avoid being discovered while they were driving when he saw the lights of an emergency car coming. The traumatized victim was able to flee when he stopped the vehicle. She hurried back home and informed her mother right away. Her mother then put in a call to the police. Nikki was seen right after at the My Michigan Medical Center Emergency Department, where an assault evidence kit was gathered and she received treatment. The investigation suffered a significant setback in spite of these prompt actions and the evidence acquired. The investigation went cold at that point as no suspect was found. Over time, the attack evidence kit was painstakingly preserved, but the investigation came to an end in the absence of a suspect. Law enforcement worked on the case intermittently in the late 1990s and early 2000s, but as time went on and little progress was made, it seemed more and more unlikely that the case would ever be solved. As the victim struggled with the after-effects of the attack and dealt with the severe impact of her trauma, the case against her attacker appeared to fade further. By the 2010s, new developments in forensic science technology started to open up new avenues for cold case investigations. However, despite these developments, the detective team's difficult task of piecing together long-dormant clues meant that the case remained unsolved. The attack kit was kept in evidence storage, and the investigation appeared to be at a halt for almost 20 years. When the state of Michigan started a project in 2016 to look into long-neglected assault kits, like the one connected to this cold case, it sent a wave of hope across the state. Collaborating with state resources, the Midland County Sheriff's Office sent the evidence kit, which was accumulated over several decades, to Sorensen Forensics for examination. It marked a sea change. The sample taken in 1996 yielded a complete male DNA profile that Sorensen Forensics was able to recover. Early in 2018, this profile was instantly added to the Michigan Combined DNA Index System. However, despite the encouraging improvement, there were no instant matches in the database. Detective Brent Benzing of the Midland County Sheriff's Office decided to investigate the quickly developing subject of genetic genealogy since the case was about to reach yet another dead end. He made arrangements with Parabon Nanolabs for a groundbreaking analysis. Researchers at Parabon utilized the expanding GED match and family tree DNA databases, each of which have unique initiatives that give law enforcement access to their data for inquiries. Parabon's staff was able to determine the suspect's ancestry in the Midland region by meticulously researching descendancy and creating large family trees from distant DNA matches. After a thorough process of exclusion and examination of physical traits, such as eye color, Detective Benzing and his team were able to identify Douglas L. Weber as a possible candidate. Benzing met Weber in July 2022 at the Midland Law Enforcement Center under the guise of an interview. With a search warrant in hand, Benzing took a buccal swab of Weber's DNA during this exchange. The sample was submitted to the Michigan State Police Crime Lab, and upon receiving the results, the investigators were delighted to see that the sample matched the DNA from the 1996 assault kit, as was anticipated. In 1996, Douglas L. Weber, then 49 years old, was taken into custody and accused of first-degree criminal sexual behavior. A sense of justice was finally served to Nikki, whose anguish had gone unanswered for almost 30 years. With this arrest, which signaled the end of years of arduous investigative labor, Weber had numerous legal obstacles to overcome in the months before the trial. Weber's absence of a comparable criminal background was used by his defense lawyer to demonstrate that the offense did not reflect his client's character, and yet the evidence against him was still overwhelming, despite these assertions. The thorough investigation and the DNA match provided a convincing picture of Weber's role in the crime. Weber entered a plea deal on December 6, 2023, admitting guilt to third-degree criminal sexual behavior. The prosecution agreed to remove the unrelated charge of assaulting a jail employee and the more serious first-degree criminal sexual conduct charge. Weber avoided a life sentence by accepting this plea agreement, but there were still serious repercussions. Judge Michael J. Beal of the Midland County Circuit Court presided over the sentencing hearing on April 4, 2024. Nikki, who is currently in her 40s, read aloud a statement at the court. With years of stress, anxiety, and other difficulties, her statements demonstrated the severe and long-lasting effects the attack had on her life. Appearing in court with a medical mask on, Weber took the witness stand and apologized through his defense lawyer. Though his remarks did little to lessen the gravity of his acts, he acknowledged the hurt he had caused and asked for forgiveness. With credit for 519 days already spent, Judge Beal sentenced Weber to a term of 5 to 15 years in prison. It was also mandated that Weber register as a sexual offender. Nikki Triple took solace in the sentencing, which acknowledged the deep and long-lasting wounds caused by Weber's crime, while also providing a measure of justice. On a frigid December morning in 1999, the serene town of Sanford, Florida, was shaken by a harrowing revelation: the lifeless form of a woman, cruelly abandoned in the woods, leaving a haunting void of unanswered questions. Sherry Holtz, a mere 50 years of age, was discovered bearing the marks of unimaginable violence. For nearly 25 years, the perpetrator eluded justice until advancements in forensic science finally led investigators to a familiar figure. Sherry had been in a long-term relationship with Gary Durrance, a man characterized not only as her devoted partner, but also as someone with a troubling history of domestic altercations. The couple cohabited in a shared residence in Sanford alongside 3 other roommates. Their bond, while significant, was marred by tension, frequently punctuated by heated disputes and episodes of domestic strife. In the years preceding the tragedy, the community had become all too aware of the couple's tumultuous relationship. Police documentation from 1996 to 1999 chronicled numerous domestic incidents involving the pair, illustrating a relationship burdened by relentless conflict. On December 2, 1999, merely 2 days prior to Sherry's tragic end, a particularly explosive argument culminated in Gary expelling Sherry from their home. This moment proved pivotal, setting the stage for the heart-wrenching events that would ensue. With Sherry now distanced from her partner and left to navigate her own path, she sought refuge in a local bar, a familiar haunt where she found solace and companionship. The last sighting of Sherry occurred as she departed the bar on the evening of December 3, 1999. This farewell would mark the final glimpse of her vibrant spirit before she was discovered lifeless in the woods of Sanford on December 4th. Sherry was found resting on a concrete slab approximately 20 feet into the woods, her body bearing the unmistakable signs of a savage and brutal attack. The nature of her injuries, blunt force trauma to the head, strangulation, assault, and a slashed throat, painted a chilling portrait of a crime steeped in brutality. Her body was arranged in a way that indicated a calculated effort to conceal her, with a bloodied lock-blade knife discovered nearby. While this knife was believed to hold vital evidence, the forensic technology of the era was inadequate for a thorough DNA analysis. The blood found on the knife, along with other DNA samples gathered, posed significant challenges for testing due to the limitations of forensic capabilities in 2000. This presented a formidable obstacle in the pursuit of justice. Investigators turned their attention to Sherry's recent interactions and activities, which brought Gary into the limelight as a person of interest. Eyewitnesses from the local bar where Sherry was last seen provided crucial insights, confirming her departure from the establishment on December 3rd, yet their testimonies failed to place her at the crime scene. This left the investigators with scant leads and no definitive suspects aside from Durrance, who staunchly denied any wrongdoing. The investigation also sought to trace Sherry's last movements and identify potential witnesses who might have observed or heard anything pertinent. Despite these diligent efforts, the absence of solid evidence and the relentless passage of time caused the case to grow cold. In May 2023, the Sanford Police Department reignited the investigation, spurred by advancements in forensic science. Cutting-edge DNA analysis techniques capable of processing smaller and more degraded samples were utilized to reassess the preserved evidence. This re-examination proved transformative. The DNA from the knife's blade was confirmed to be Sherry's, while the handle revealed DNA matching that of Gary Durrance, Sherry's long-term boyfriend. This revelation marked a significant turning point, as Gary had been a person of interest due to the tumultuous nature of his relationship with Sherry and their documented domestic conflicts. The new DNA findings were further corroborated by renewed interviews with witnesses and statements made by Gary, which suggested he possessed knowledge of the crime scene prior to its official discovery. These remarks, made before the details of the crime were publicly disclosed, bolstered the case against him. This technological advancement not only pinpointed him as a suspect, but also enabled authorities to secure an arrest warrant. On July 17, 2024, he was apprehended the following day and charged with second-degree murder. The resolution of Sherry Holtz's case after nearly 25 years underscores the remarkable influence that advancements in forensic technology can exert on cold cases. The apprehension of Gary Durrance stands as a remarkable illustration of the unwavering commitment to justice exhibited by law enforcement, coupled with the advancements in forensic science. The pivotal DNA evidence that connected Durrance to the crime scene underscores the potential to revisit and resolve even the most intricate cases through contemporary methodologies. For the family of Sherry and the Sanford community, this development brings a long-awaited sense of resolution and justice for a heinous and senseless act. Durrance is currently detained at the John E. Polk Correctional Facility in Seminole County, with a court appearance set for September 10, 2024.